Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with more Total War Warhammer 2 online action. Today we're back with the good old Gobos. I would say Greenskins, but yeah, what's up, dude? It's just Gobos again. We're facing off against the Wood Elves, so let's go ahead and get to the army compositions. For myself, I've got a Night Goblin War Boss on foot. Yep, that's it. Seriously, no, in terms of his abilities here, there's a reason for this. He's got Get Back here, of course, for leadership. The Tormentor Sword means that if an opponent tries to snipe him out, like dive him with the dragon or something, he can pop this, and potentially we can freeze him in place and maybe get some sneaky tricks. Of course, we've got Wah as well. And Spite of the Bad Moon, which is the main reason why I take this guy on foot. He's already got a good missile block chance, 55% missile block chance. Spite of the Bad Moon gives expert charge defense and also gives an additional 48% missile block chance. So essentially you can get this guy over 100% missile block chance with that Spite of the Bad Moon, which is the reason why I like him against the Wood Elves. For the rest of the build, Goblins I find are just so good right now. You know, Goblins in a lot of matchups, not every matchup, but in a lot of matchups, Goblin-focused builds are so good, especially against a lot of the Elven factions I've found, just because you can outbody them so hard, and Goblins are very cost-effective if you chevron them up a little bit. I mean, they're cost-effective to begin with, but especially because they're so cheap, their chevrons are cheap, and you can chevron them up for not that much. So anyway, we've got Moon Howlers and Spider Riders up here. We've got Death Creepers and Mangy Marauders. We've got the Teeth Robbers as well. In the front line, we've got 8 Peak Loonies, regular Spear and Shield Goblins, of course, that don't have anti-large for some reason. Again, Night Goblins through the center. We've got 3 Doom Divers, more Spider Riders out on the side, and Night Goblin Shaman with Sneaky Stabbin', Itchy Nuisance, and Gorkle Fix-It. For the Wood Elves, you can see they've got this mobile force here with Glade Riders with Hagbane tips and 3 groups of Wild Riders, so a very powerful mobile force there. For my opponent, he's got a couple units of Dryads with some XP chevrons, a couple of Eternal Guards with shields as well, protecting the flanks, War Dancers with Azrai Spear, he's got a Branch Wraith, and 3 groups of Deepwood Scouts with the Swift Shiver Shards. These are the ones that do magic damage, and they also have a multi-shot, I believe. They do 2 shots, yep, 2 projectiles per shot. So you can see them opening up shots on the Spider Riders, who do have a missile block chance. Not the best, but it's what, 30%, so not bad. They won't take too much damage from that, but let's get the battle rolling. You can see the Doom Divers are first things first going to be focused on the Wild Riders here. And I'm trying to get these Wild Riders isolated from the rest of their army so that we can potentially just trap them in with a ton of Greenskin cavalry, because the Spider Riders with Wah up will trade pretty effectively here. You can see I'm going to go ahead and charge in the front line, or in the front rather, with the Moon Howlers. The Moon Howlers are going to take the bulk of the charge from all 3 of those Wild Riders, and they're pretty much gone immediately. But you can see this unit of Spider Riders came in the side and is actually able to do quite a bit of damage here. 2 of those groups of Wild Riders getting very low. Itchy Nuisance also going down to debuff their melee stats, so their melee attacks pretty much in the dumps right now. And the Doom Divers also just pounding away here. You can see we're able to trade very cost effectively. I mean, I had, what, like less than 1,000 points of cav there, even with the chevrons, and that was, what, 4,500 points worth of Wild Riders, and we're able to trade pretty well, all things considered. Meanwhile, in the front, I'm pushing the Gobos up just to zone out the Deepwood Scouts so they can't shoot at the Doom Divers. I don't want them just, you know, murderizing the crews with their arrows, so we're going to push them forward a little bit and start to focus the Doom Divers onto the Deepwood Scouts here. Meanwhile, we've got more Spider Riders rallying to the cause here, coming down to protect this flank from the Wild Riders, since we lost the one mobile group pretty much completely. The other group of Spider Riders kind of sacrificing themselves in here as the Death Creepers, and the other units are going to fire in as well. But here comes the second push of the Spider Riders, actually going to catch out the Wild Riders in the back. The Wild Riders don't get their charge bonus and are going to get dragged down by spiders here. So, yeah, very favorable situation for me. Meanwhile, on the front line, you can see my opponent's unleashing hell on the Gobbo here, but he's up to his gold missile block chance with 103, that is, percent missile block chance. So those arrows literally from the front have no chance of hitting him at all until that effect wears off, which it just has. That being said, the Doom Divers are pounding away at the Deepwood Scouts, just completely wrecking them, and that's the main reason why I like to bring the Doom Divers here. They're very good against the high-value, low-armor targets of the Wood Elves, particularly their skirmishers. You can see the War Dancers are having to be thrown in against Goblins at this point, which, I mean, they'll probably do okay here. They'll probably beat the Goblins, but it's not going to be cost-effective at all. considering how cheap these goblins are and how much damage they're going to take in the process. Not to mention Doom Divers pretty much landing right on top of him. So yeah, pretty painful situation. Dryads are going to beat out Gobos in the front line, but you can see elsewhere on the battlefield, the Night Goblins here beating out Eternal Guard no problem. These Goblins are losing to Dryads. Meanwhile, over here, these guys are trading a lot more evenly, but because we're able to finish off all my opponent's mobile units, that does mean that once we get clear, that my mobile units are going to start to come around the back line and clear things up. Meanwhile, the Branch Wraith, brave little Branch Wraith, is pushed through and is starting to slap around these Gobbo crews here, which is definitely unfortunate for me. You know, it's not my favorite thing in the world, but I don't really have... I guess I have these Spider Riders that could potentially respond here, but we're going to go ahead and keep them in reserve for the time being. More Doom Divers just perpetually pounding away at these Deepwood Scouts here, and man, they are suffering big time. Meanwhile, the Gobbo kind of mobile squad here is rolling up the side. We've got the T-Frabas that have come into range here. They're going to be soaking some fire from the Deepwood Scouts, who are perpetually being pounded by the Doom Divers there. And yeah, you can see this, the War Dancers just really not trading cost effectively at all against those Night Goblins, especially with a couple of Doom Diver shots landing in there. The War Dancers are actually going to lose, which, I mean, even with the chevrons, those Goblins are still probably only about 550 to 600 points, so it's still a very cost-effective trade from the Gobbo's perspective. The Chariots are just about to get to the Deepwood Scouts when the Glady drops Praevana Threma on them. The Gobbo's not too happy about that, so he's going to get in here. He did use Spite of the Bad Moon as well, so these T-Frabas actually momentarily had a missile block chance there, which is definitely helpful, but the Deepwood Scouts that were using those arrows, shooting in there, Death Creepers and the Mangy Marauders, as well as some Gobbos, going to come in and shut them down. And at this point, you can see, despite the fact that my opponent's going to come down and finally shut down these Doom Divers, it's too little too late. They've already been able to get a lot of work done, and it's going to be victory for the Gobbos momentarily. So we'll soak up some cinematics of the most ignominious death of the Elves. It's like, who would win, you know, potentially, you know, eternally living, centuries-old beings who live in a forest full of ancient spirits and magic, or a bunch of goblins. Not to mention they have chariots, but still, a bunch of goblins. And yet it works. It works so well. You know, just the synergy that you can get going here against most traditional Wood Elf builds are so strong. I mean, certainly there are probably Wood Elf builds that could punish you pretty hard here, but I feel like even like a Dragon build potentially could be pretty rough, just because the Dragons don't really have the best armor, and so with the Wa Up, you know, for the charge, and with other abilities, you could still potentially beat Dragons, I feel like, even with this build, but yeah, Penumbral Pendulum going down, unfortunately not going to be enough to save those Eternal Guards. At this point, the Glady is going to finish off the Gobbo War Boss here. But again, too little too late. At this point, the balance of power has tipped enough that it's pretty much impossible to come back at this point. The Branch Wraith's still hanging on. There also is a relatively healthy group of Dryads here that's also helping to hold things together, but Doom Diver comes down, the Spiders are going to charge in, the Chariots charge in, and just look at the Goblin Horde just closing in. Oh man, that's terrifying. Those Dryads just getting just the green tide washing over them. Oh man, super epic. Love Gobbos. And I definitely think, again, that there's certainly sort of a meta around all Goblin builds right now. They seem to be pretty viable in a multitude of matchups, especially if your opponent's not expecting it. And I think that's the biggest thing, is people tend to think of the Greenskins as an incredibly strong frontline faction, when in fact they're probably the strongest horde faction in the game. I mean, the Skaven are up there, vampire counts are up there in terms of just bringing tons and tons and tons of bodies and just throwing them at you until you die, but the Gobbos are one of the best, especially because their units are really cost effective for what you get out of them. I mean, just look at that, 80 kills on Night Goblins versus the Wood Elves, and that's pretty impressive, even if they are just fighting Eternal Guards. But I mean, the Spider Riders trading against the Wild Riders there, 62-31. I mean, obviously the Moonhowlers just got shut down super hard, but I mean, they were able to break the charge enough that we were able to get the work done. And you can see the Doom Divers as well, really key in this matchup, in my opinion. Because you can go so wide, it's going to be hard for the Wood Elves to get at these guys if you play your cards right, and then they can just pound away. You can see they all started out with 2 XP chevrons. So all of them got at least one. 2 of them got 2, able to get up to rank 4 there. Pretty impressive stuff. 77 kills against a Wood Elf army that had a relatively small model count to begin with. The Doom Divers definitely taking home the game ball, so to speak. Although the Spider Riders definitely have an argument there as well. I definitely think the Doom Divers were the MVPs. And yeah, again, just the Gobos in the front line trading well enough with the extreme chevrons going on that they can stand. The Wood Elves, I mean, obviously the Dryads did quite well here, and I actually kind of like to pick up Dryads in this matchup, particularly if you're supporting with the branch rate to give them a bit of extra melee attack. They can definitely cut through the chaff units of the Greenskins as well. And again, it's hard to predict Greenskins. These all Gobbo builds, their advantage again is that they're unexpected, but how you can counter them is if my opponent had even just traded out like this one Azrai Spear rather than bringing that, because there aren't really a lot of large armored targets you have to worry about as the Greenskins. If you would have traded that out and maybe one of these Swift Shiver Shards for a couple of Sword Dancers, the Sword Dancers will cut through Night Goblins pretty well, although with the Chevrons, I'm not really sure. It might be a little bit harder potentially, but I still think that they would do pretty well in this matchup. I mean, granted, they are pretty expensive, and you're still going to face getting outbodied here. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below about my my Gobbo build against the Wood Elves here. So pretty fun stuff. Hope you guys enjoyed watching. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button so every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.